Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet on Monday the 4th of December. A warm welcome to not only members but members of the public here who are here to obviously watch the proceedings. Agenda item 1 is authorise me to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of November as a correct record of the proceedings. Thank you. So we move then to apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillors John and Mary Barnes, Chairman of Council, and Councillor Hollingsworth. Are there any other apologies?
None.
No. Move then to additional agenda items. To note that agenda item 6.3, which is the Minority Report Community Governance Recommendations, will be taken at 6.1. Agenda item 4, urgent decisions. There are none. Oh, yes, there is. It's the 8.1 is to be taken as an urgent decision. That's the Parliamentary Boundaries Review. We move then to agenda item 5, disclosure of interests. There are none. Okay, well, obviously, if it comes up that there is a disclosure you need to make, then remember to declare that at the commencement of the relevant agenda item. We move then to this first substantive item on the agenda, the references from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. We'll then move to agenda item 6.1, which is the Community Governance Review for Bexhill, the final recommendations. That is obviously a reference from the Scrutiny Committee, so I shall ask the Chairman of the Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Paul Osborne, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chairman. Don't believe I can be filmed from this angle, so that's just as well. Yes, we had quite a long discussion on this a week ago last Monday, or last Monday. We had a two-part meeting. We started the first part at 4 o'clock to enable sort of members of the public to come in and enable more time for the committee to actually have a full discussion. And then we went into part 2 of the meeting at the usual time of 6:30. Yeah, we had a full discussion on this issue, and the vote sort of unfortunate. I found myself in the unfortunate position of the cast-in vote, which was not something I really relished, but there it is. So hence you have this item to discuss. There was a move to remove options 3 and 4 from the recommendations to yourself. Which I would have had some sympathy with due to the fact that there's very little appetite for area committee or area committees as such. And again, the 4 parish councils, there didn't seem to be a lot of appetite for that. The reason I proposed it to yourselves with the full of the 4 options was that it was your working group that was set up by you as a cabinet, not by us as a scrutiny committee. And also, I think the original petition to council, of whenever that was, 18 months, 2 years ago, I assume, mentioned the formation of an area committee. So it would only be correct that comes back as an option for you to discuss today. But it's in your gift to refer what you wish to full council.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Kenwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very happy to move the recommendation. In doing so, I would reiterate what I said at the working group, that I believe such an issue as setting up a tax levelling body within this area is far too important to be decided on by just a very small minority group of people. Therefore, I believe it should be moved to the full council to fully debate the matter. Referring to Councillor Osborne, he mentioned the original petition, and I'm rather surprised that over 1,000 people signed the original petition asking for an area committee. As far as I'm aware, they haven't been asked if they changed their mind, yet there's absolutely no mention of those 1,000-odd people within the report, and I would have thought that would have been mentioned in the report. But I'm very happy to remove the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hollidge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very happy to second this recommendation to Council because it is important that all four are debated, because some people have been asking me what a Bexhill Town Council can do that isn't already being done or can't actually be done without one. So at this moment in time, I certainly haven't made a decision one way or the other, and I think the full debate at full Council is very important to be carried forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Discussion. Any other councillors wishing to speak? No. That being the case then, it's been moved and the minority report has been tabled as part of 6.1. Mrs. Project?
I just wanted to point out, and Councillor Kenwood knows this, is that when the late John Lee did the petition for an area committee, he had done a lot of research into area committees. They had executive powers, area committees that he was proposing. They had budgets, and there were area committees across the whole of the patch where there are area committees. So it was quite clear when Cabinet, the executive, decided that they wouldn't have any executive powers, certainly wouldn't have a budget, would cost quite a lot in terms of servicing it and officer time. Indeed, and we had the extra problem of having two other rural area committees having to be established as well. So clearly, it wasn't the animal that John Lee proposed. And so that was why we, at scrutiny, suggested you leave off area committees, notwithstanding the fact that it didn't have support in the consultation. And that was the reason why.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver?
Confirm that point was the fact that I think also Councillor Kenwood mentioned 1,000 on the petition. It was 4,000 that petitioned for area committee in the government. You did say 1,000, but okay, it was 4,000, which was 10% of the electorate, over 10% of the electorate at the time. And I think that the matter was that as soon as an area committee, which could have been an option, it could have been an option that works elsewhere nationally, could have been an option that could have worked, but as soon as any executive powers were decided that it wouldn't be involved, and also the fact that some of the rural councils seemed to think that perhaps we should have an area committee, so the whole thing just really went into the long grass and had no real reason.
Let me correct you there before you carry on. As things stand, an area committee is still one of the four options. And it is entirely appropriate, I think, that councillors should be of all political persuasions throughout the whole of the chamber. It's important that 38 councillors contribute to the debate. And that, I think, is clearly underpins some of the comments that have already been made. Councillor Osborne, back to you. I'll bring you back in a moment. Councillor Osborne.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chairman. I think it should be said that there was a move to bypass Cabinet, to refer the recommendation, if you like, directly to Council. But on the legal advice, because the working group had been set up originally by Cabinet, then it was only correct that it comes to Cabinet for discussion. I thought I'd just mention that.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
On the basis that we're talking about a residents' consultation, and that shows again very clearly 74 people responded for an option as area committee, and you had something like 8,631 for a town council. And I just wondered why we did not put the area committee and the four parishes into the long grass.
I think it's been made quite clear by yourself that 4,000 people initially voted for an area committee. And that is why... No, if I be allowed to speak, I'm chairing this meeting. The fact of the matter remains that 4,000 people signed a petition for an area committee. Let's not be pedantic about it, and that is why it has been consulted on, and that is why councillors should have the opportunity to debate all four of that. I'm not going to have a debate with you today, councillor.
No,
that is the fact.
Come back, please.
No,
well,
thank you.
You've had your say.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Councillor Field.
Thank you. I'm concerned about the process of this. The council appointed a steering group which looked at the matter in enormous depth and yet didn't come to a conclusion. It didn't come to a conclusion to bring to the scrutiny committee, which again, having considered the work that the steering group did slightly, didn't come to a conclusion. It's referred it to Cabinet, which will then go on to council for a full debate. Now, I'm very happy with the full debate because I think all members should be involved. What I would hope, though, is that those very detailed papers which informed the steering committee's discussions and yet didn't bring them to a conclusion are made available to all members and appended to the papers, because we all need to have all the information before we debate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all that information is available and will be made available to all members, and I think it's very important you make that point. Thank you. I think it's very helpful. Are there any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Mrs Sally Ann Hart.
Yes, on that matter, I mean, having a look at this minority report, clearly it is a minority report, and so it would be very helpful if we had some costings done independently from the minority report, if that's possible, for all the options on the table.
I think they are contained within the appendices to the main report, are they not?
Yeah.
Malcolm Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, the difficulties, we've said to members, the difficulty of working out the cost of a Bexhill Town Council, for instance, is until you have a Bexhill Town Council, you don't know what services it's going to provide. Therefore, you can't provide an accurate cost for it, because anything is just a presumption. So what we've done and what we've tried to lay out is, on the basis of these issues, that's what that would cost. Area committees are relatively easy in the fact that they are just they will just be staffing costs, because they have no precept raising powers anyway, so there's no possibility of them raising any power. So it will be basically the cost of staff and members to actually deal with them. The no change one obviously speaks for itself. And the problem we have with the 4 parish committee is we can't actually accurately cost that out, because we can't draw the data down, because we're not set up to deal with it in that way. Obviously, if that was an option that was being seriously considered, then we might have to look in more detail at it, or anything around that. Other than to say the cost, it's probably likely to be similar to the cost of setting up 1 parish council multiplied by 4. There'd be some reduction, but not very significant. So it's quite difficult to actually give accurate costs at the end of the day until we know what is agreed with any incoming council. We can't actually give an accurate cost. What we can try and do is give a cost based on presumptions, or assumptions more likely. And there's a degree of accuracy to that, but those assumptions may or may not apply depending on the town parish council that's enacted.
Thank you. And of course, members are free to compare with neighbouring districts and boroughs where there are town councils of a similar size to the one that may or may not be set up in Bexhill. Councillor Scobie-Green.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I agree entirely with Malcolm that you can't actually cost it until you know what they do. But I would just like to point out something in this minority report, and I can be correct if I'm wrong, but they are, in Appendix 1, it says the estimated cost for Town Council for Bexhill. Now, that includes accommodation costs, administration costs, insurances, etc. But it doesn't actually include any doing anything. Whereas in the amounts for parish councils, the local precepts, they actually include doing stuff. So you're actually not comparing apples and apples, you're comparing apples with pears, because once the town council is presumably going to do something, otherwise there's no point in having them. So that figure obviously is the minimum figure in setting it up, but then you'd actually have to do stuff, so it would actually increase.
Malcolm Johnson to respond. Thank you.
It may be one of the authors, but I'm assuming that that's based on the administrative costs of a town or council rather than anything else. But I mean, again, I didn't draw the figures up, Chairman.
Councillor Mrs Prochat, thank you. Councillor Mrs Prochat.
Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right that those are the administration costs, and advice was taken from NALC on what that cost would be. And you are right, and I now direct myself to rural members in particular, because if I look at my own parish of Robertsbridge, Hurst Green, Bodiam, if I look at the Robertsbridge one, which is the largest village probably in Rother, and I look what they spend their precept, in other words, residents' own money go on it. The list is quite long. There's obviously a lot of public open spaces and parks, public toilets, benches, street lighting, pavilion. Other rural members, listen to this carefully, because your parishes are paying for your parish services, but they are also paying for Bexhill. And it would be fairer, more democratic, if Bexhill paid for their own services. There is a feeling out there that actually the rural members have got the better deal here. But they don't, because there's double taxation going on. And the list from my parish is quite long. We've got a parish warden, We do finger posts, we do street furniture, we do dog bins, we do grip bins. Notice these are all paid for by the parish precept. And if you go to larger parishes like Rye, then you've got youth work, Rye Partnership, a maritime festival, community transport, Rye Festival, cricket club. So they support their residents with their precept and their tax. So what's going on in Bexhill? There's double taxation. Rural parishes are paying for services in Bexhill. Think about that, rural members.
But is it not true then that can play both ways? Because we are, as Rother District Councillors, responsible obviously in terms of that taxation that goes across the whole of Rother. So you could argue that Bexhill council taxpayers are paying for Rye swimming pool. So it cuts both ways.
I think if I may comment on that, I think it's too easy to say the Delaware, Rye swimming pool, the museum. There are services that are actually cross Rother. I know people from Robertsbridge who come to Edgerton Park because it's so lovely and go to the museum. So I'm not talking about the big things like the Delaware. I'm talking about the day-to-day running of making a place a better place to live in. So the street furniture looks good, the bins look good, and it looks cared for.
But I do think it's a little bit disingenuous because I think that it's hugely important to look across the whole of Rother as a travel to work area. And I think that, you know, if you want to distill things down to the parish level, then surely you'd be advocating, for example, the 4 parishes. But, you know, we can have that debate, obviously, at full council. We can have that debate, obviously, at full council, and that's exactly what we will do. And every single member will get an opportunity to debate whatever their opinions are on each of those 4 options, and then that debate will be properly informed. Councillor Ganley.
I think we rural members have to be a little cautious about suggesting that that Bexhill gets the best deal. We shouldn't forget that it costs more to provide services in rural areas than it does in urban areas. So in that sense, Bexhill is supporting rural areas. I agree with the chairman. It cuts both ways. There is the De La Warrs, the museum and so forth, all of which serves the whole of Rother and is paid for by the whole of Rother. And that, I think, is quite reasonable. But be careful, rural members, what you wish for. You might just get it.
Well, I think it's fair to say we have certainly over the past 20 years or so operated as a Rother District Council where every member is obviously involved in obviously the budget setting exercise and in terms of special expenses for Bexhill and obviously parish precept. I think members are only too well aware of how those finances work. Councillor Mrs Sally-Ann Hart.
Yes, I've been listening to the debate, and obviously it's going to go to full council for a proper debate. But to me, it sounds like if the cost was that important, we wouldn't be looking at another layer of governance, because obviously that is going to cost no matter how you look at it. And I think the key here is the issue of localism. And I think so if you're really considering the issue of localism, you have to really bear in mind the fact that Bexhill has a population of 44,000, so a town council, is it really going to give the people of Bexhill what they need in terms of that desire for more localism, or whether they need to actually have smaller governance structures put in place that we need to explore? So I think it's absolutely right that we do debate this in full and look at each option that's put on the table, and I think it's not really a place here to have that full discussion. It's something that we have to do at full council.
Absolutely right, and to be clear, that's why I stopped Councillor Oliver, because we need to be clear what we're talking about today isn't the whole debate, and I need to make it clear for members of the public who have come to view the meeting as well. We're here today to obviously have a recommendation that's come through from scrutiny, and I think it is broadly speaking the wish of most of the members around the table. We'll obviously take a vote shortly, but it is that all 4 options are thoroughly debated, because I think it is a hugely important issue, and I think it is hugely important that all of the 4 that were consulted on are properly debated, because I think it is folly to suggest that there aren't still people that want a an area committee for Bexhill. Yes, the numbers that have come back in this consultation are substantially less than those that signed the petition, but there was, and quite clearly there still is, an appetite for an area committee in Bexhill by some. And even if it is only, please let me finish, it's not an interactive meeting. The reality is that even if it is only a few dozen people, they deserve their particular option that they support to be debated by the councillors that represent them. That is only right and proper that we do that. Councillor Mrs Kirby-Green.
Sorry to come back to the costings again, but I would just like to flag one more thing. That basically, and it's because it's come forward in the minority report, it makes basically a comparison. But if you look here, this is flawed, because it says a total estimate of a town council for Bexhill is 118,000. Well, in this, it's suggesting that Ticehurst precept is 118,000. Well, Ticehurst has about 3,000 residents, and Bexhill has 44,000. So there's absolutely no way that Bexhill Town Council will be able to operate on a precept that Ticehurst Parish Council has. So I think that there is, this is very disingenuous, this Appendix 1.
Thank you. And those comments are noted, isn't it?
Administrative costs, not the precept. So the administrative costs which are in here at 118,000 is to set up an administration for a town council. The precept has nothing to do with the precept.
But what you're comparing it to the actual precept of Ticehurst. So you're not comparing it to the administration costs of Ticehurst. You're comparing apples and pears. These are the precept costs. Yep, no, but the 118,000 isn't the operating, is the overall precept in Ticehurst. It's not the operating cost.
I think that this will all come out in the full council debate, and I think that some of I mean, we're going to have that full debate, and clearly the costs of running and administrating a Bexhill Town Council would be between point X and point Y. Malcolm Johnson's already explained that until you know the sort of services that a town council was likely to administer, you wouldn't precisely know the costs. All I would say, even at this stage, is if you look over at Wealdon and you look at some of the costs of their town councils of a similar size to Bexhill, some of those precepts of those town councils are in fact at a similar level to Wealdon themselves. And we need to be brutally honest about, there is a field of cost that is possible for residents if a town council was enacted, and that could be, at the lowest possible scale, that is the cost of setting up a town council. And at the other end of the scale, one does have to look at, obviously, those larger town councils in the vicinity, in neighbouring authorities where there are town councils of similar size to Bexhill. And we'll have that debate clearly at full council. Can I also, before we wrap, thank the original governance review group that obviously did a huge amount of work before this matter came to scrutiny and then indeed to us today at Cabinet. And I'd like to personally thank today Robin Patton, who chaired that governance review group, because I think he was and is an excellent independent chairman and has done a diligent piece of work in making sure that those meetings were properly conducted and that the information they had was the information that members needed. So can I thank those individual members, and can I thank Robin, you as chairman, for your part in this process. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak before we take a vote, which was moved by Councillor Kenwood, seconded by Councillor Hollidge? Are there any other councillors that wish to speak? No, that not being the case, then I will now move it to a vote. As moved and seconded, all those in favour, please show clearly. That is carried. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. If any members of the public who are not interested in other items of the agenda want to leave now, I'm happy to break for the meeting if you want to. So I shall pause the meeting now. Thank you.